Welcome to the Win Make Give podcast. Chad Hyams here. Bob Stewart over there. Bob, how you doing today?
Hey, honestly, I'm kind of disappointed you showed up. Like, our guest and I were having a really good time.
That's how I feel.
We were telling stories. And normally you're here, normally I'm the one that jumps in right at the minute. But This time I jumped in a couple minutes early thinking I was going to have a discussion with you. And my friend Ken was here. And so we were bantering, and then it got to be the time, and then it was maybe even a minute late, and Chad wasn't showing, and I was getting very hopeful. But you crushed my dreams.
I get it, Bob. Bob, I feel that way most of the episodes when they're, and even if it's just us. I mean, forget when there's a guest, right? I'm crushed when you actually log in usually for it. I make fun of you for always being on your vacations and earning that personal time that you take so well. But really, some of those are my favorite episodes. Now, Bob, I'm doing you a favor, because on your last getaway, I was supposed to have interviewed today's guest, and about 12 minutes before the interview,
we know that now. Why
his power is going to get turned off. So he's emailing me and saying, I don't guarantee I'm going to have power during this whole thing. And I said, well, I don't have Bob, so I'm going to be nice to Bob. Let's reschedule. And here he is. So let's get to it. And let's bring Ken Schmidt to the call, and Bob's friend, Ken, joining us on Win Make Give. Ken, how are you today?
I'm doing all right, Chad. Bob, good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well.
And Bob, it's good to see you in a hat that fits your head, not your overflowed ego.
Wait. Okay, you're calling me out here. Look at this thing, Ken. They sent me this. Somebody in our world sent me this ridiculous. I kind of have like an outfit I wear every day, so you never see me without our place hat on. And is this the most ridiculous thing? If you guys, they can't see us, Chad. I've got this. I don't even know what they call these.
On your story on Facebook and Instagram
a noggins boss. These ridiculous oversized hats. The only people I've ever seen wear these are like rappers at their concert or something, you know?
Well, there's a new career opportunity for you.
It's not a new one for Bob. He's been attempting to break into that one for a long time, Ken. We'll just skip right past that. Ken, look, you and Bob go way back 4 whole minutes or so.
Yeah.
You and I now go back 2.5 minutes or so. And our audience doesn't even have that much time with you yet. I don't read bios. Bios are
boring. Is the word you're looking for? Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me who Ken is. Introduce yourself however you want to be introduced to our audience.
Okay, I'll try to be brief here. I am a speaker. I'm an author. I'm the former head of communication at Harley Davidson Motor Company, and I was fortunate enough to make my bones as part of the turnaround team at Harley back in the late 80s through the 90s that took the company from being broke and damn near out of business to the worldwide juggernaut that it is today. And I've been milking that thing ever since.
I want to go right there. I know Bob usually takes the first question. I'm just jumping in, other than the fact that I absolutely love his microphone. I mean, doesn't that look awesome, right? Love his microphone.
It looks like it should be on like a Star Trek episode.
It does looks like he's talking into some AI thing or something, right? HAL or something. All right, so Ken, let's go back to
how old are you? Did you just say Hal?
He did. That was a 2001
reference.
Kubrick reference. So
that's like from the 80s or something, isn't it? Like,
Bob, I'm a product of the 80s.
That's from the 60s, man.
I was born in the early 70s, 71. I got no problem with my age. I was born in 71. I'm a child of the 80s. To me, Harley Davidson has always been the brand.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so I was kind of starting to realize there was a world outside of cartoons when you were saying Harley was kind of being rebuilt, but they've been around forever.
121 years.
They had a great brand. And then what happened? So our business listeners can kind of learn from the lesson. What took Harley from as good as they were to where they ended up being? And then what were the steps you noticed to rebuild what is one of the most recognizable brands, I still think, in the world?
Okay, well, great. And thanks for saying that. The company was, and has been for 121 years, the kind of de facto name for motorcycles around the world. I mean, not a lot of companies with 121-year histories, period, let alone motorcycle companies. But after 80-some years in business, when the Hondas of the world got smart, and the BMWs and the Kawasaki's and the Suzuki's, it's Yamahas, etc. They began to look at Harley with his big iconic bikes and say, we can do that. We can do it. We can price our stuff way less than theirs. So people who want to ride big bikes don't have a lot of money to spend will buy from us. And Harley did what way too many companies do in that situation when competition came on board, and that's nothing. Well, what? Yeah, well, good luck against us. Our names are tattooed onto millions of bodies around the world, and people love us. Yeah, they loved us right up to, right up to chapter 11. People jumped on the lower price stuff almost immediately, as they do in any market. The stuff is good. It's made by big name companies. They can't the newcomers, new blood that don't have brand affiliation couldn't see any difference, couldn't see any reason to pay more, so they didn't. They jumped on the imported stuff, and Harley went from having a virtual monopoly on sales of heavyweight bikes to barely having any market share at all. So that was when the turnover, any business is a turnaround that goes to zero. So it was basically at zero. So it's like, all right, how do we turn this sucker around? And what everybody thought, and this, Chad, your point, this is where most businesses screw up. Is they think that if we build a better product, if our product is truly world-class and has superior quality and all those other 70s, 80s buzzwords, the market will come back to us almost immediately. And that's when we found out that, competing with product is a fool's errand. If you live by your product, you're eventually going to die by it because people need more reasons to buy from you other than what you do and what you make. Because if all you're known for is what you do, and all we were known for was making motorcycles, all that does is encourage people to compare. And when they have good stuff to compare against you that costs less, man, you just set yourself up for trouble. And that's exactly what most famous company on the planet, but no reason to buy from us. So that was kind of what sparked the realization that we're not approaching our markets properly.
Okay, so you're in this place where you're like, okay, when we know we have a good product, but there's other good products out there, they're undercutting our price, and so if we continue to kind of present it as, hey, we got this great product, they're like, okay, there's 5 of those out there now where there only used to be 1, and yours is twice as expensive. I'm just going to try this one, and so over a period of years, I mean, it led you to a place where we're at zero, right? Or maybe we're even on the verge of bankruptcy. Okay, so I guess if I'm not selling my product, what did you guys pivot to selling to people?
Well, first, we had to learn that lesson the hard way, which most people do. So tremendous advancements in the technology and innovation and reliability, the rideability of the product were built into the product line with tremendous excitement. And all the motorcycle magazines around the world are saying, my God, Harley's building absolutely bulletproof stuff. Ooh, good for them. And nobody bought. So, well, what's wrong here? And let me ask you something here. If you see, if you're listening, obviously you can't see, but I'm wearing a shirt with a big Harley logo on the front, and like millions of people around the world, everyone in the Harley. No one is not used to seeing Harley Davidson tattoos on people.
That amazes me when you even mention that, right? Before you keep going with your thought. Yeah. I can't think of another brand other than maybe Nike that more people probably have the logo of some other brand tattooed on themselves. I see the Harley logo and maybe I see the swoosh or something like that. I can't think of other companies people do that for.
Bob told me you had Tostitos across your back. Was he?
Yes, they are sponsoring me and all the stuff that I do. There's a big chip on my back here that I.
But there's a cool lesson in all this because kind of no matter where I'm at on the planet, people will always say, it's unbelievable that so many people are so loyal to Harley Davidson that they've actually had the company's logo tattooed onto their bodies, and then they say, I wish our customers or my customers could be that loyal, but, and there's always that but, and this is the thing, and they'll say, but what we do isn't cool or iconic or steeped in history. And, Elvis didn't own our product and all these Hollywood types. And I'll say, all right, all those people with Harley tattoos out there all over the world, what are they professing their loyalty to? And everybody will say what you're probably thinking right now. Oh, their motorcycle that really cool, awesome piece of hardware.
Community is what I would think.
Well, thank you. And what I say is that's basically the thinking that bankrupted the business.
Right.
This belief that we do something really well and people react to it. And the punchline to all of that is, as you know, we learn to humanize the business, is that people aren't loyal to things. They're loyal to the people behind the things. And that's when kind of the light bulb went off. That said, look, are we here to glorify our product? Are we here to glorify, uplift, and delight people through our product and through the community that we have around it? And what would the difference be? And the difference is that when you view yourself as a business as human, you say, well, we want to be known first for who we are, not for what we do, because there's a bunch of other people who do what we do really, really well. So if humans, that's people, know us, like us, can attach a human face to the name, to the business, feel like they know us as a business, well, they're more drawn to us and more likely to come back to us. So we said, let's not be in the selling and serving business. Let's be in the delighting business, because we know people will delighted people always come back for more.
As I like, if I was to close my eyes, Ken, and think of, like, I don't think I would ever think of Harley and like put anybody's face on it. Yep. Right? Like, that the Harley, like it's not Elvis's face, or it's not. But if I close my eyes, there's very much a picture of what Harley is to me. And I don't ride motorcycles, right? I've probably been on a motorcycle 10 times in my life and never since I was 18 years old. But to me, like when I close my eyes, it's the wind in my hair. It's riding on the open road, right? It's maybe some big, those are really hard, by the way. I had a friend that had one of those. That's like ridiculous. You got to be an expert. But it's, I don't know. It's like that freedom of being on the open road, right? And the wind, and like, as you guys thought about kind of making the business human, I can't imagine you were thinking like, we got to put a face on this thing. Were you thinking like, we've got to get people to close their eyes and feel what it's like to drive on a Harley, or what does that look like?
Great question. It's not that we want them to see a specific face. And because everybody, you say the word Harley Davidson, just about every country in the world, everybody has a picture forms in their mind. Yeah. Riders on in the American West, or cowboys on bikes, or the big, the bearded
Hell's Angels,
up people, whatever those things are. When we talk about the human face, we're just talking about human attributes: warmth, humor, passion, enthusiasm, things that that only humans can experience. Because we can't define what a motorcycle does, and unless you've got a PhD in engineering, you can't really describe what it is, right? And how all the various parts working together work. Although that's how most companies try to present themselves. Here's all the materials and the workmanship and language and data and terminology that people don't understand.
That's every car commercial I see today is just, look how sleek this thing is, and it's got these features in it. And
all about the product. Yeah. You are exactly right. And 30 seconds later, 5 seconds later, you don't remember what you just saw, if you even care to, because they presented themselves the exact same way. They made it about the product. Look at the product. Look at the product. Look at the product. Well, I am, but I can see all this other stuff out there that is arguably just as well made.
Okay, so Bob, you said when you close your eyes, you get the wind in the hair. So I don't have the hair. Right?
That was going to be an easy setup. You took the punchline from both of us.
And to me, of course, I had to just get to it first, right? To me, and I'm not saying it in a bad. I see the Hell's Angels.
Yeah,
right.
A lot of people do. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I think a lot of people, especially in my age group, would see with the Harley Davidson. Ken, you were in there. What do you see when you close your eyes and someone says Harley Davidson? Do you have a specific, movie that it was in, or character, or something that comes to mind that's your image?
I don't have a movie image. I have the image that goes through my mind if I'm sitting on a long flight. I'm at 35,000 feet, and it's almost invariably warm fall day. Very twisty, curvy roads through either, Door County, Wisconsin, or somewhere in Maine. The foliage is changing color, and you're just blasting through.
Yeah, I know
very, very sharp turns.
Ride like Dragon something, or so that.
Yeah, and you got your buddies in front of you and behind you. And say, this is
Never been on a
this is
motorcycle.
as good a day as you can have.
So you talked about, like, so you guys at Harley, you didn't try to put a face on it. You didn't try to make us all think it was the Hells Angels, or even make us all think it was that. What you guys decided to do, if I'm hearing you right, is like try to tie Harley to the emotions that it creates in people when they think about or interact with the product, not the product itself. Is that right?
One thing that is absolutely true, whether it's the Harley world or any world, is that emotion will always trump logic. Feelings, which in emotions are human and only human. We go with our gut. We like things. We like the way things make us feel, or the way we feel about each other or a business. All those things are human. And as we learn, hey, look, those are the buttons that we have to push. Now, how do we do that? And we determined that the best way to put that human face on the business was to be the most visible company in the bike world. So instead of making and shipping and selling stuff, we put boots on the ground everywhere. We would load semis up with bikes, take them out any place where there was likely to be motorcycle people gathered, blue collar America, back in the 80s before Harley's Renaissance, into the 90s, and let anybody who wanted to take a ride on one, and then afterwards stand around and talk to them. What do we need to do to make this more attractive to you? What do we got to do to make you want to own this or be part of this? And we found out that everybody that we talked to answered our questions. So we began having this like community was starting to build, and people picked up on that and noticed, hey, I can have a conversation with the head of engineering at Harley Davidson. I'm certainly not going to be able to do that with his counterpart at BMW or Kawasaki. That we don't know them. They're not visible. And what we found is that every time we went somewhere new, from one Saturday to another, 1 month, there'd be more people showing up. So it's like, okay, word's spreading that we're out, we're visible, we're talking to people, we're solving problems for people who had problems with their bikes, we're showing off new stuff, creating this super enthusiastic party vibe around what we were doing, what we later renamed our lifestyle, and just making it intensely human and enriching for people, giving people a good time, letting them feel good about themselves when they were in our presence. And that's what I mean when I say the human face. It's like the qualities that they're attaching to the business are, iron and steel and chrome. That's the product. But they're seeing that the humanity of the people that work there, the passion, the energy, and the enthusiasm that, from faceless companies is impossible to create.
Okay, so I'm thinking of some other companies while you're talking.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So like the first one that pops in my mind is Coca-Cola, right? They have a huge, but that's just flat out flavor. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody is a fan of Coca-Cola. Well, I can't say nobody, right? Most people aren't fans of Coca-Cola because of the human behind Coca-Cola. It's because Coke tastes better than Pepsi, or right. And that's it.
Well, let me take that a step further.
Okay.
So what I say to that is, and first of all, Coke spends billions of dollars advertising, so let's never separate the go-to-market tactic from the returns on that. Is if I ask you, Chad, to describe any business on earth, a two-person sandwich shop, Coca-Cola, whatever, you will always use or imply the pronoun they. Oh, they've been around forever, not it. Which means that we, without thinking about it, we humanize everything, because that's the only thing we know how to. We're human beings. That's all we know how to do. I don't really know what caramel coloring and carbonated water is, or what it looks like, or how you mix it, but I know they're damn good at it. They, and that's kind of the principal driver of, to me, the humanization of things is recognizing that we want to be spoken of. The words I use as a positive they. I love these guys. They rock. They're the best. They're the coolest. I always recommend them. Very rarely in a conversation about a business do you hear the word like it, which just means someone is talking specifically about the product or the thing that that company does. And when you say that to people, especially people that are, in smaller businesses, your furniture makers, your carpet people, they kind of scratch their head. Holy shit. never once thought about that. We're so focused on, making a great product. And everybody does make a great product, and bravo, you have to. That we never for 1 second thought about, the bigger part of the ledger, which is the human side. That upon which we build our differentiation.
My truck is an it, right? It's an it. Honda's an it, right? I mean,
the product itself is,
it's an it, right?
Why did you buy a Ford? Because it's because they make the best trucks, or whatever your opinion on them is. Right. The default is to humanize without thinking about it.
The only other one that comes to my mind is Jeep. Right. Mm-hmm. Jeep has done a great job, and it's that lifestyle that Jeep has built around, mm-hmm. and they've created with their people. What other companies are doing it right? Like they're doing it like Harley Davidson did it.
Well, it's not so much that they're doing the Harley model of being visible and doing rallies and bringing in Foo Fighters and stuff like that Harley does, but that they put emphasis on the they. And you look at somebody like Patagonia. You mentioned Patagonia to people who hike across. Oh, they are so committed to the environment. They give back. They, and it's like, so leadership of that company, the people that work, understand this. They get it. Like, look, sleeping bag's a sleeping bag, and shoes are shoes, and until you really get down to the stitching and the nut and bolts. But if I like you, I'm more inclined to buy from you. And if I like you because of the stuff that you're doing, that's positive, that's recognizable, that's human, then you're winning.
This is Ben and Jerry's story, Chad. Yep. We had Ben and Jerry out at one of our events. Like they early in the early days, like took a truck and drove around the country, and they were there, and you got to talk to them. And that was very much the roots of their story, was this idea of kind of creating community around their ice cream, and they'd literally take it from community to community.
But think about that for a second, just how absurd that sounds. We're going to build, if you said, especially like, 20 or 30 years ago, we would have built a community around our ice cream. People say, like, what are you smoking? That's just like a crazy thought. We think, well, no, they actually did it. Because I never met Ben or Jerry, but I know what they look like.
And they were smoking stuff.
Why? Yeah, I'm sure they were. But why do I know what they look like? Because there's so many pictures that you've seen, an imagery of them out at events and surrounded by people.
But they put a face
everyone's having
to
an
it,
ice cream.
Right? They put a face to it in that sense, where Harley Davidson never put a face. We don't know who Mr. Harley or Mr. Davidson
are. I bet in that community there was a lot of faces that the Harley community recognized. Like you were likely one of them, right?
There truly are. I mean, like the Davidsons for one thing, but that was something that we actually wrestled with back in the day. Of look, if we're going to show somebody on a bike in an ad, and Harley's always been a very, very small advertiser, or in a promo piece or in a poster, is who is that person? Because if we put on the big bearded guy, then you have the dentists of the world say, well, we own bikes too. That doesn't look like us. Or you put on the real, the innocent, demure looking people, and everybody else goes, oh, who's that puss? He's not tough enough to ride a Harley, or a woman or whatever. And we said, we're better off never showing your face. Yeah. That way you inject yourself into the image. Now you see that person as you or somebody that you know.
It's a great point. And audience, I hope you're getting some of this stuff for being able to create that loyal following that you're looking for. Maybe your business hasn't been around 120 plus years, and maybe it's not going to be here another 120 years the way Harley Davidson will probably be here when we have rocket bikes and all of that kind of stuff going.
Coming soon, yep.
But I'm not a motorcycle fan personally, right? And I can't imagine the self-driving motorcycle when that comes out. That would completely freak me out. It's enough going on Disney where it goes around and around on the thing. But it's creating that.
You got to get out more, man.
It's creating that. Believe me, I get out my own way. But motorcycles not that way. I had too many things earlier in my life with friends and motorcycle. Right?
I hear you. Yeah.
You know how it is, and that's not Harley Davidson's fault or any motorcycle brand's fault. It's just the branding that stuck in my head for it. But we're talking today with Ken Schmidt, one of the guys who helped reinvent Harley Davidson to the name you know it today. You got a book, right? Make Some Noise is the book that everybody can get. I'm guessing on Amazon is the easiest way.
That's the easiest way. Make some noise. The unconventional road to dominance. So show you how to reposition a business and your culture to be a source of delight for people and to humanize your business and become a dominant competitor.
He definitely knows. He definitely knows the tagline on that book. You also have a podcast, Ken, that you do on your own, not when you're just guest on us, and that's called
Tailgating with Geniuses.
I was joking
with really smart people.
I was joking before, Ken. I was a Seahawks season ticket holder, a lot of tailgating. I don't think we had one genius show up to our tailgates, and you have a podcast.
Certainly with the Seahawks too. Come the Packers tailgate, you'll see all kinds of geniuses.
Well, Bob, my question is, they might have been a genius before they started tailgating. By the time the tailgate got going, they probably lost a few IQ points along the way.
I think everybody gets smarter as the tailgate goes on. Isn't that usually how it works?
They think they get smarter. Let me ask you a question about, so you when we were talking about Ben and Jerry a second ago, you said, that would have sounded crazy that Ben and Jerry were like, we're going to take this ice cream truck around the country. And if they had a corporate board at that time, the board probably would have been like, that's a horrible idea. Like,
what's that going to cost?
Yeah. Inside of Harley, I'm assuming this idea started with a person or three or a group. What did it take to sell everybody on this vision of like, the way we're going to reestablish the company is we're going to go boots on the ground and we're going to bring our community together? Like, how did you sell that vision?
The great part about that is that in order to do that, most companies don't have to go the route that we did, which is to fail at everything else first. And it's like, all right, everything's going great from a product perspective, but we're still not making any money. So something is clearly going wrong. And then as we began to take bikes out and do what we call demo rides, just let people ride them to get feedback, instead of just rank and file employees doing that, be the CEO, board of directors, people from the manufacturing plants, the higher ups involved in the design and creation of the product. And so now they're getting feedback, including a lot of negative feedback at that time from riders. And they're saying, well, there's something to this.
It wasn't being filtered by the guy that takes it and the manager and the guy who doesn't want to piss off the boss guy.
Dude, and I'll tell you that when you are the guy who is responsible for the paint department and somebody's in front of you pointing out paint issues, on his bike, you say, this is my pride and joy. I didn't fight in Vietnam for 8 years to come back to have some American product that isn't made properly. Ooh, wow. They take that personally. So, we can't allow this to happen anymore. And if I was hearing this complaint filtered through somebody else, that sucks for them, right? But when you're hearing it yourself, and when you're also getting this input from people, these ideas from people, and then sharing them with the others on your team, it becomes very, very contagious, and you begin to immediately see the benefit of doing it. Man, so and then when you've got the CEO and the money people of the business say, yes, it's expensive to do this. We're going to keep doing it because we can sense that a sea change is happening and that riders, even riders of competitive bikes, are beginning to like us. And I can't tell you what a soft word that is. They like us now. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you're selling. If you're buying something, you're going to buy from whoever you like.
No like and trust.
All else being equal, you go with who you like, no matter what's being sold. And if we were a bit more likable than the Yamaha guy down the street, well, then we win.
Yep. Ken, you've been with Harley how many years now?
Oh, I'm retired.
How many years was it you were with them?
85 to 97. So
okay, so
13 years.
Good 12 years there during the
good years, as I like to call them.
The growth.
I tell everybody.
Take us behind the curtain there a little bit. You started to dive into it a little bit. We know, and we talk about it on When They Give with a lot of our guests. Ben Kinney, our founder, he talks about it all the time. Culture within an organization can make or break an organization. So even before that stuff goes out to the world and they start to like us, as you said, we have to have that culture within our organization. How did you create that culture? How did you maintain that culture within Harley Davidson that our audience can say, you know what, I can rip off and duplicate that?
Well, here's how we know that culture is everything. And I said that every association that you have with a business, remember, it comes back to that they, is a mirror reflection of the culture of that business. I like these guys. These guys are cool. These guys suck. They're terrible. They have horrible customer service. They. So you begin to realize, hey, look, who we are internally is ultimately what the marketplace sees, because when they're put on hold, when they've got a service problem or they're ignored, they're not being well taken care of, all that
I'm hearing
stuff.
is Comcast right now, Bob Stewart. I'm just hearing Comcast.
Amen to that. All of that that's a reflection of the culture of the business, and the culture of a business is a mere reflection of the attitude and the behavior of the people running the business, because employees, by and large, no matter how big the company is, tend to not do what they're told to do. Unless the boss is looking, they tend to do and talk and behave and act the way leadership does it. Because we want what they have. I want to get promoted. I want to be part of that. So we mirror that behavior. So when the leadership of the business says, this is who we're going to be. This isn't the desired behavior of people that work. This is the expected behavior. This is who we are. If I'm not modeling this behavior, the people around me aren't modeling this behavior. And as soon as we stop being human, being a source of delight for people, surprising and delighting them in ways that they don't expect, as soon as we stop asking questions, stop asking people how we could do this better, they'll find somebody else who is. And that's the function of leadership. And leadership, that's not part of business process. That is business process. That's kind of job one. This is who we're going to be. This is how we want to be seen. And it's my job to make sure that happens.
I've been, man, Chad, we're getting like a little bit long in the time here. Maybe Ken would consider coming back. And Ken, you have this.
Sure, you would.
I've been looking all around. One of the things that I came across that I really love, and maybe we've got time to hit on one or two of them. You got this concept of weapons of mass attraction.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing with us like one or two or three, I don't know, things that you think that we can deploy to attract people at scale to us? That's what I mean, maybe I'm even reading this wrong or something.
No, you're not reading wrong. And again, it goes back to human qualities, things that all human beings find magnetically attractive, magnetically as in a force that pulls you forward or toward that person. And the first of the thing that I always remind people is that somebody seeing you for the first time at a meeting, at a trade show, on some miserable virtual meeting, is they've decided in 1/100th of a second whether they like you, based solely on that first taste that they get when they see you. Let's see, the single most magnetically attractive of all human traits isn't like a smiling face, because anybody can do that. And I was joking. They used to smile at Sears, and what happened to them?
I worked there.
Wait, was that you?
That was me. I worked there.
Bob. The single most magnetically attractive trait is visible with a capital V, passion with a capital P. When you are in the shared space of somebody who's genuinely passionate and thrilled and excited about what they're doing, it's a human reaction. You tilt forward, you lean toward that. Why? Because we're a joy-seeking species. Yeah. This person's clearly digging what they're doing right now. I want some of that. Let me feel some of that. And I tell people, that's you walking into a meeting, right? Is we can make ourselves more magnetically attractive, not in the movie star sense, in the human sense, that other people want to be around us just by being cognizant of that. The tone of voice that you use on a phone call, the person that's answering the call becomes the human face of the business. For that person on the other end calling in that's got a problem or wants a question, that first person that they talk to is Mr. Harley Davidson, Mr. Ben forever.
It's the they, right? Everybody there's the they.
Please hold. Well, guess what? They suck. I don't like them. I choose to not do business with them. Other weapons. Visible passion isn't just the most magnetically attractive trait. It's the most instantly mimicked of all human behavior. When you're around somebody and you're in their shared space and somebody is all fired up, you, without thinking about it, start to mimic them. Now you're smiling and bobbing and having a good time too. And this is being ingrained into your psyche. When I'm around these people, it feels good.
It's why I like Tony Robbins events. Everybody, Tony Robbins is doing it, and everybody's like, well, I should be doing it. And when you step into that environment, you're like, well, I got to be doing it too.
I'm under the ether now. Yep. You're around. Visible passion is, you notice it, you react to it, and begin to imitate it immediately because it feels good. It feels better to look like you're having a good time than look like you're a miserable turd.
Chad, he's talking to you. No.
Talking to me again?
What's one more? What's another?
Give us another weapon, and then we'll wrap it up and get ourselves out of here.
Sure. It's the way people start conversations, and I think about this all the time. If you're talking to somebody, it's a trade show, you're at a bar, you're in a reception somewhere, somebody that's important or potentially important to your business. What we tend to do is try to be interesting. I'm going to tell this person all about our business and why we're so cool and where I went to school and all this other crap. I said, no, we go miles further if we focus on being interested instead of interesting, because now we're making the person that we're talking to the subject of our interest, our fascination, our delight. Tell me about you. And humans are always happiest when they're talking about themselves. Somebody is showing an active interest in me. Nobody else does, but this person is. We like that. We will always come back from where we like you for doing that. And if you're the first person I met at that business who's asking me all about me, what did I do this weekend? And then reacting to it. Oh, that's so cool, dude. Tell me more. Wow, I like this guy. I like these people. Nobody else talks to me. Pow. What did that cost? Nothing. It just said, hey, stop putting yourself first. Stop trying to be interesting to people who probably aren't going to be interested anyway. Instead, show interest in them. And here's where the money is. Always react excitedly to what they're telling you. That's so cool. Oh my God. Like, tell me more about that. Tell me more about your kids. And what are they up to? Oh, look at this little guy. He's so cool. Pow, oof, oof, oof. In you go.
Yeah.
Try to not like that person. Yeah.
My wife gives me a hard time. Whenever we go on an airplane, there's one of two outcomes happens on the airplane. Either the person I'm sitting next to, we don't acknowledge each other at all, right? There's not even a nod or anything. You just sit there and stare forward. Or there's an interaction, and 95% of the time, if there's an interaction, I spend the majority of the plane ride talking to this person. And my wife will always say, we get off and she's like, what are you guys talking about? I'm like, I know more about this guy's life. Like, I'm interested. Like, I'm genuinely interested in this random person sitting next to me, their job. I'm like, oh, wow, you work at Boeing? Like, that's cool. You guys, did you build this plane? It's really easy to see it. That experience on an airplane for me just encapsulates that, because you're always sitting next to somebody you don't know at all. And if you act interested, you can come out of there with them thinking like, man, this guy's pretty cool, right? Like,
now take that. I'm thinking about like you're working the booth at a trade show. Hell on earth for most people.
We've done our rounds. We've been next to each other.
Customers are coming around and they're milling in. And think about this: you walk by like a booth that's full of what's probably really nice stuff, and the people that are in there, the employees or the reps, look like they'd rather be shot than have to be there another 5 minutes. The trade show look. They're kind of looking at the ground or looking away. Well, pow. You kind of look at this and say, well, I guess they're not going to want to talk to me right now.
First off, there's no visible passion when I walk by that booth, right? They're
absolutely miserable. And to that person, I say, well, we're selling deodorant, and the other 50 people in the row are also selling deodorant. And a guy comes up and Woody says, have you seen our new product X? And, we got a special coupon this week. It's moronic. So does everybody else. I always ask people a question they can't say no to. And I said, what do you mean? I say, hey, man, you want to see something cool? Find me the person. No, man, please don't show me something cool. Of course, you better have something cool to show them or something even. But so you've got your conversation starter, and the first word out of the person's mouth isn't a no or I'll catch you later, which makes it impossible for you to even think about having a conversation. So you get them to say yes to something right away. They're intrigued. Pal, you got them.
Chad, I don't know if you ever, it's probably once a year I end up with our company out at one of these things still today. And, I would always, as they're walking up, I'd know their name, right? Like all those things. So some of you weren't a name tag. So I have their name and I would say their name, which immediately gets them to be like, oh my gosh, do I know this guy? And I love tennis shoes, and I've always got some fancy Jordans on or something of these things. So like my reference point, I would go to their shoes. Mary, hey, I love your flats. Like, I bet you those are way more comfortable than a bunch of those heels that we see walking around. Like, and I would try to just go in on something. Generally, I would focus on shoes, but their name, and then just like
Bob, you're giving away all your tricks.
I mean, hey, what do you know? If they listen to us,
that's why he's here, Chad. He's here to share this.
Yes, he is. He is. And you know what? I'll tell you this, Ken. He's interesting.
He's
right?
I can see that.
He's interesting.
And hear that.
Wait a minute.
But also interesting because he asks really good questions.
He does, because he's very interested, which is why Bob is an amazing co-host to have on the Win, Make, Give podcast. And you have been extremely interesting today. And I know I've been interested this whole conversation. I was very interested to see which way it was going to go, to see what we were going to even talk about. Thankfully, we talked to a guy that turned around one of the most iconic companies in our country, and really showed you some steps, folks, today. So check out his book, Make Some Noise by Ken Schmidt. Check out his podcast. Give it the title again. I didn't write it down.
Tailgating with Geniuses.
Tailgating with Geniuses. Well, there we go. And folks, make sure you check out
Even though he's a Packers fan, I think I would bet that's a pretty darn good podcast.
Hey,
you took a shot at my Seahawks earlier, Ken. You took a shot.
I got nothing to say about that because my Giants stink.
I had that come. No, sorry about that, Chad.
So I just keep out
Nobody
of all
talks about the Giants, Chad. Nobody cares.
Hey, we have Lawrence Taylor in the history books. He'll always be the greatest of all time. There's no argument there. You're done. I don't care what you want to say. All right, folks. Make sure you have shared this episode with someone, because there is someone that you find interesting that this would show just how interested you are by sharing the lessons that Ken was sharing with us to help their business grow. You can always join us on our Facebook group, which is Win, Make, Give. And until our next episode, as always, do good.